The situation is out there in terms of what the settlers' ideology is, how much they really want to be part of a non-Israeli sovereign, a Jewish sovereign entity, and we know exactly what Palestinians think of settlement, because in a sense, if you were to say to both sides, and I hope this doesn't sound too simplistic, you know, let's reduce everything to simple, and say to each side, what is the one major benefit you have to get and feel that you get out of compromise and peace resolution and so on. I think on the whole most Israelis would say we want to know that there's not going to be missiles and there's not going to be suicide bombers and we can go around safely in our street and shopping malls. And if you'll say to the Palestinians, I apologise for once I will say it, and the Palestinians will tell me if I'm wrong, they'll say we want to see the end of occupation, the end of every single sign that symbols occupation. There is nothing for the Palestinians that symbolises occupation more than the settlements. So I don't think it's out there. I think in terms of the issue of safety, I don't think it's really on. And thirdly, I would say one more thing at the ideological level. As you know, the vast majority of settlers, particularly those in the places who would always be on the other side of the line, like Kadumim, Meili, Elon Moreh, Shiloh, and so on, spurred on by a very strong religious nationalist ideology. Their religious nationalist ideology don't just tell them that the land is holy, but for them a holy concept, a religious concept, also the issue of Jewish sovereignty. In other words, at the theological level, they then have to deal with, are they prepared to give up on Jewish sovereignty in order to live in the land? And in my view, that is going to be a very strong theological argument which is used against them by people on their own side to convince them why, if and when there is an agreement, they have to move out.
Thank you for that, Gurion. Yes, technically, the issue of the settlements from a principal point is problematic for the Palestinian side because, compromise, what have you, and the issue of occupation. The one point that you would see there in the general discourse is that sovereignty is one thing, access is something else. It's, for example, one of the ironies of this conflict is that there is far more historic and religious attachment for Jews in the West Bank than there are in the coast. So, if anything, the Jewish state should be in the West Bank and we should take the coast, which I wouldn't mind actually. But, so there is that. But I mean, it is a messy agreement, so we need to deal with it. So that's one thing. And the Palestinian perspective there is that Palestinians, of course, accept and protect religious and national attachments to the places like Shiloh or Barach or other places. And then they can have, Jews can have access, but within Palestinian sovereignty, and we can have arrangements. So we should not conflate the issue of sovereignty with the issue of access and religious rights, archaeological rights, what have you, right? That's one thing. And the second thing, and here I'm going to do my best not to breach any confidentiality or other responsibilities I have. What I can tell you is that officially, no, Palestinians have not considered settler residents in the West Bank, or what they have considered is settlers getting Palestinian citizenship, and Palestinians are perfectly fine with Jewish citizens of Palestine. We have Samaritans in Nablus. But there have been, it has been considered, but it's not official, to see if there are some residency arrangements that might work. Again, separating the issue of sovereignty from the issue of access and wanting to live there. If, as long as those Jewish citizens, or Israeli citizens, sorry, want to live under the Palestinian law, then in theory, Palestinians do not have any problem with that. The other part of the coin is just the political sellability of it, because as Gurion said, people might not be willing to accept that presence. The form of that presence is very important. Hence, this might be something that might be more plausible to discuss if the environment is one where we have more trust and we have more credibility that it is going to be a completely sovereign and powerful Palestinian state.